The concept of flow can become your ultimate way to deal with anxiety. Now, for last 20 days, we spoke about different aspects of anxiety and how you can deal with it, how you can change your perspectives. But I thought the whole idea of being in a flow, being in a zone where the time stops, you cannot remember where you started the whole journey, you just feel happy every single time you connect with yourself when you are in a flow activity, that can become your antidote to anxiety. And that is today's conversation. My name is Aditi Surana. I'm a graphologist and a high performance coach, and this is day 21, the last day of our 21-day anti-anxiety journaling workshop. It was our social initiative. If you're new here, if you are still joining in, let me tell you, you can still be part of this conversation and this initiative by signing up on the link aditisurana.com/lockdown21. The idea to do this work, the idea to build these conversations is for you to look at your same situation in a different light, to walk into the same storm with newer tools with you, and thereby you can change them. Now, by the time all of you are joining in, I have to tell you this wonderful story of one of our participants who is on the live right now. Her name is Beena Ramesh. Beena is a 58-year-old woman, and she has been dealing with anxiety and other challenges that it brought, and what the medication of anxiety developed for her is shivering or trembling of her hands, and because of it she could not write, could not sign, and struggled to do any activity with a steady hand. In last 20 days, just last 20 days, she did the Calmsutra S-stroke practice non-stop, and that has led for her to stop the tremors. She started doodling after 20 years, and I cannot tell you how powerful that one story is. We have heard so many of them, but that one single story, every time I thought about it since morning, I just feel it's worth all the effort. So thank you so much for trusting the process, for being part of it, and thank you so much for giving the Calmsutra stroke a chance for it to work with you, to deal with your anxiety and take your journey to the next level. Let's get to today's topic. So the concept of flow was developed by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who was an Austrian psychiatrist, and he was researching around why some people, some very, very high performers, scientists, why some people, when they walk into their work, they forget about the world. What happens? What is underneath? What is their secret? When he spoke to them, most of the people in different terms and their own, experiential conversation, they spoke about they being in a zone, being in a flow, being in that state where time stops and they just feel so involved that they do not understand or do not even remember why they are here. So all of this, almost like out of body experience happens to them because they connect to their flow. So he called that concept flow and started working around it. In the last 30 years, so many people have worked on this concept. So this is his book. It's called Flow. He calls it The Psychology of Optimal Experience. Now, he became the founding father of positive psychology, where he said if we can create and induce this whole concept of flow, what all will it do for us? How can we change things? How we can alter things? Now, in fourth chapter of Yoga Sutra, it talks about Kaivalya. The sutra is called Kaivalya. Kaivalya means Keval Lay. Keval Lay means the complete flow. So it talks about when you are in that flow, which is in yoga, it's spoken about as a communion with your mind and body. Now it creates a state which is in a way invincible. It creates a state for you where you can connect with yourself at a deeper level, at a stronger level. Now we are doing the same thing with all our conversations and with the graphotherapy, the hand and body and mind and body coordination. We're trying to create a flow. Technically, the S-stroke practice that you do is called flow of thoughts. Literally, that's the name of this graphotherapy. Much before I started calling it Calmsutra, it's called flow of thoughts. So it generates that flow when you are in that stroke, and that's why I wanted to end this entire conversation around anxiety on flow, because the very moment you allow your body to get into a flow, your mind follows it, and that's what we want to do with every single conversation. With every single step, we have walked closer to it. Now, Mihai said that we can actually induce this particular state of flow in our everyday life. And how do we do that? He gives some steps. First one is dharana, which Yoga Sutra calls dharana, but fundamentally he says complete attention and involvement in this particular activity, in this moment. Now, when you operate from that level of concentration, you suddenly get absorbed in that moment. You know, has it happened to you? You went hiking and you reached the top of the mountain, and that beauty and the view was so beautiful that you almost felt absorbed in it. If that is what we are talking about, if that's what happens to people with or without their knowledge, they just feel connected with the larger idea. The larger idea from which they look at the situation, they start changing things for themselves, the way they observe and absorb everything. Now, if that's a fundamental activity, so anytime you are in a flow, it is bound to happen that you feel completely absorbed in that activity. However, I don't use the word focus because most of the time people understand focus is like avoiding distractions, but that's not true. It doesn't matter when you're in a flow, even if you're in the noisiest place and if your favorite song comes up, you suddenly feel the connection, and then you feel, oh my God, that is the song that I want to connect with. That is the moment that I have, you know, my world stops. And in that case, not only in that case, so many other cases, when you are in flow, the distractions don't matter. So it's not that you are focusing by avoiding distractions. It's like you might be in the most distracted place, but the flow can make you forget everything that is happening. So it's that level of absorption. You know, they may sound opposite of each other, but they're completely different concepts. The second point, he says that the flow activity takes you beyond mundane. So it might be a mundane activity. You know, you might find your flow in the way you arrange the flowers every morning, or the way you garden, or, you know, it could be an absolutely mundane activity. But that doesn't matter. When you do that activity with so much of awareness, suddenly the same activity can give you so many different moments of information. You start observing things, you start paying attention to those little things that otherwise are missed in the rigmarole of life. Right? So we forget about all the external ideas and we get so involved that awareness can bring you joy. So many times people experience this with their kids. They have looked at so many kids of other people, they do not even care about it. But when you see your own child growing, suddenly you have that deepest connection with your child. And that is an essential aspect that I'm talking about, that awareness that happens because you're that involved in the moment. The third aspect is your personal standard. Most people who are in flow, like athletes and scientists, you know, they work at certain level of commitment, certain level of challenge, certain level of style that they imbibe or they create. And what matters to them is being able to deliver every single thing that they have built over a period of time. You know, they have built their style of functioning, and if they don't achieve what they have in mind, they do not feel happy about it. In Japanese philosophy, the same concept is called Kodawari. It is, you know, that Ikigai concept covers Kodawari. Kodawari is not about perfectionism, but it's about personal standard of excellence. So some people make their morning tea or morning coffee in their style. It doesn't matter what other people like. It's about their involvement with their coffee, and that moment can become that can become your journey. People who do yoga practice regularly have spoken about this. You know, the journey of walking towards that particular posture can become your way to build awareness, your way to build your personal standard. Now, here I have to tell you this quote that I am reminded of right now by B.K.S. Iyengar. So he speaks about headstand, and something that he spoke about, it was so powerful. I read it like 3 years ago, but every time I fall off my headstand, or when I'm trying to, you know, balance it for a longer period of time, I'm reminded of it. He says that when you are on the mat and when you are trying to get into your headstand, if you're too careless about it, if you do not control that movement of going up, taking your legs up, then you fall on the other side. If you're too controlled, then you cannot even go up, and your legs would never be straight, and, you know, when you're upside down. And thereby you practice on the mat how much to control and how much to let go. But having said that, When you practice that about your headstand, that whole aspect of how much to let go and how much to control is practiced throughout the day because you practiced it on the mat. So literally flow activity does that. When you keep getting into your flow activity every now and then and keep pursuing your personal standard, your Kodawari, to make sure that you deliver what you have in mind without your knowledge, without your efforts, the same thing percolates throughout your day with ease, and it happens at the back of your mind, and it's not an active attempt, it's something that your body walks into, steps into. The fourth point is challenge. So it's flow activities are not happy activities only. These activities have two criteria. One, you have to be challenged. You have to feel as if you are being challenged in the moment, and that's an essential aspect. So when you're challenged by people, when you're challenged by the activity, when you are challenged by that personal excellence, you stay involved in it. Okay, when you are, and the second aspect is skill set. You have to have skill set to fulfill that challenge. If you have no skill set, then you feel completely lost and you're like, what's happening? Why am I here? Oh, and then you feel the anxiety. So anxiety is where the challenge levels are very, very high, but your skill set is very, very low. If on the other side, if you have great skill set and no challenge, then you get bored and you feel, yeah, whatever, like it will happen, it will not happen, I don't care. Because in that moment, you do not have anything stimulating you. But flow happens when you are challenged enough and you also have the skill set. So I'll give you an example here. Imagine you're driving and you're a new driver. Now, when you're a new driver, you have lesser skill set, and driving around the city by itself is a tough job. So every time you have to drive around the city or go anywhere, you are struggling with all the clutches and gears and all other things, right? On the other side, if you are a very good driver and if you're driving in the city, then you can just be relaxed and pretty much bored because your skill set are much higher than what the challenge requires. But imagine a good driver who knows how to drives on the highway where the speed is higher, the challenge is higher, then he has to be completely involved in the activity. He can't be like relaxed about it. He has to be on his edge, has to make sure that he enjoys the process. I know this because I love driving on the highways, and every time you drive to Goa or anywhere else, you absolutely realize that you require the skill set to maneuver your car at that speed without compromising on anything, because any small mistake can cost a lot more, and thereby that level of concentration, involvement and engagement in the activity of driving allows you to be fully present, fully involved, fully in the flow to actually go about the challenge, right? And that's an essential aspect. The last one, I don't talk about the challenge part, is when you are challenged in that manner, the flow becomes something that you can cultivate over and over again. What do I mean by that? You can choose your challenges, you can build on them. One of the examples I would like to give here is, imagine you and I, post-COVID times, we meet for a cup of coffee. This is my favorite example. You might have heard it before, but I have to tell you. And we see a person running. Now, there are three possible reasons why he's running. He might be running because there is a kite in the sky. He might be running because there's a dog behind him, or he's preparing for a marathon. Not running in the marathon because there is no marathon, social distancing, but he is preparing for one. So when he's preparing for one, he's constantly every day challenging himself to build his skill set, to take his own journey to the next level. He listens to his favorite music, he chooses his path, but this option is not available for somebody who's driven by a stick or carrot approach. So thereby, flow activity is rewarding for the activity, not for the results or not for the lack of results. So you don't work because you'll get promoted or you don't want to get demoted. You work because working is a reward in itself. That is a flow activity. You sing not because people will applaud, not because you will feel left out. You sing because singing is a reward by itself. So flow activity at large talks about doing the activity because you feel the connection with the activity. Isn't this magical, beautiful, wonderful concept? The very moment you start operating from flow, you will know that, and you all do it. We all do it at different levels. So think about 10 to 15 moments in your life where you just felt that you were in the flow, you forgot about the time, you were challenged in that manner, and at the same time you continued to build your skill set to take your journey, to showcase your journey. Now that is the process that I'm talking about. When you're there, physically, it is impossible for your body to feel the lethargy, the anxiety, the boredom, the lack of stimulation. It's not possible. Now, when I was dealing with my anxiety in 2019, I took 1 year off from Bombay and I decided to move to a remote place. Now, when I was there, I didn't hire somebody to cook. I made sure that I have somebody to help me clean the house, but I didn't hire somebody to cook for me, and I didn't know cooking. So I never entered the kitchen before that, but that became the challenge and the skill set building. So I started applying all the flow principles, so thereby being completely involved, building my personal standards, every day picking up newer recipes, more and more challenging recipes to crack the code. Now all of these became my way to put my body and mind in a flow through cooking. But as I said, what happened when you did it with one activity? It allowed your mind and body to carry that flow everywhere afterwards. So slowly and steadily, the attention that I had while cutting the tomatoes and the onions in the exact manner and with that precision, when I kept building on the skill of cutting the onions, it allowed me to connect with other aspects. And that's how flow is built. Now, what do? When we do this today's journaling question, I want you to think about what are your aspects. So think of these moments, these activities, which is great. Now go and find what aspects, what is the essence of this flow activity that I enjoy. So for example, if you love painting, it's not the painting as such. What you're talking about is I enjoy the creativity aspect, involving myself in that activity, being completely one with it. And when I compose something, there are parts I know or I think I have an idea, but also painting allows me or forces me or challenges me to walk into areas where I have no clue and figure things out. That is what I like. So if in a simple activity like painting, you may like creativity, you may connect to the aspect of being challenged and the adventure of it, also reinventing the concept, also operating from that restriction and coming up with multiple ideas. All of this is available when you're operating from your skill set to the fullest, right? And this is what we want to pick up. So today's question is, when I'm in this flow activity, what aspects do I truly connect with? Now find your aspects. This is an essential aspect. It's an essential part of finding flow, because the activity may change. Sometimes you learn an activity and you get bored with it, you get done with it, and then you won't have the same level of commitment and challenge there. But if you understand that, and if you keep building on it, and if you create a newer process there, the game becomes very, very different. And once you experience that game, you wouldn't want to change it. Now give me a moment. I'm going to quickly change the camera and do the S-stroke practice for you to see. So the grapho journaling is a 3-step process, right? It starts with a question, then we move to the S-stroke practice, and then we go by responding the question with handwritten journaling style. So you think of this question, we'll walk into the S-stroke. If you're new here, no problem. I'm just going to show you how to go about it. Now when you do this practice, the most important aspect is to follow the 5 instructions that we keep talking about. Now I've done some part of it in the live conversation. I'm going to just continue the practice for you to connect with it so that you understand what we are getting into. So the S-stroke is, or the Calmsutra practice, is about getting your mind to feel the flow of your own thoughts. Now it's called technically flow of thoughts. That's the technical name of this graphotherapy. It begins with the stroke on the top, it ends on the bottom like this. All loops must be open, and the flow is what we focus on. So if your hand stops, you pick up your pen and you start again. If your hand stops, you pick up your pen and you start again. That's how we're going to go about it. And the 5th point here, which is the most important point, is make sure that when you do this practice, you breathe slightly longer than your normal breath. Don't get into deep breathing. We just want slightly longer breath than your normal breathing. Okay? So, yeah, that's even better. So let's look at the stroke formation and how to go about it. Keep breathing slightly deeper. I call it handwriting meditation because so many times while doing the stroke, you get into this meditative state, and the idea here is not to focus, not to fight your thoughts, but actually just get your attention. Even if your mind is muddled right now, just get your attention on your movement of the stroke and on your breathing. With your drifting mind, one of the thoughts will be to get your attention back here. With that thought, simply come back and start the practice again. Really, we're going to look at like a stroke at a time. We're going to make sure that you give your 100% to this stroke formation, each stroke formation. It's not about how long the stroke goes, it's actually about how involved are you with it. So breathe slightly longer than normal. When you're doing the stroke, just be involved with the practice, and that's the most important part. And that is your, you'll be surprised, but that's your pause building mechanism in the situation. How it works, why it works, there are graphological reasons for this particular stroke to work. So can you practice any other letter? No. Is this letter S? No, actually. It is a formation which is of a connected stroke formation. Okay, so continue doing this practice, complete your page, you know the procedure, think of the question, do entire page of a stroke practice, set a timer for just 15 minutes and then respond to the question. Okay, that is a mechanism that we follow. That process is called grapho-journaling. Now my request to you is make sure that you remain as honest as possible when it comes to your journaling responses. There is no point to prove, there is nobody watching. It's you and your reaction, you and your triggers, you and your responses. So when we build this mechanism, it is something that you can count on for life. Okay, so journaling mechanism obviously can be a companion throughout, but also these reaction and responses kind of thinking, that would also help. So on that note, happy writing. Now I must say thank you so much for being part of this 21-day journey. I have received so many wonderful messages from all of you, and I cannot tell you how beautiful it is. You know, it's not only your journey with the stroke, your journey with what we did, but it is my journey and our team's journey with ourselves to deliver this content, to make sure that we do the handwriting analysis, collect the topics. So last 21 days were enchanted, and I cannot be grateful enough. This was wonderful. So thank you so much for being part of this journey and walking, you know, this process with us, trusting the process. I have two requests to make here. First, please teach the stroke to anybody and everybody possible, because people don't know dealing with anxiety can be this simple. You've gone through the process, you know how powerful it is, so we cannot miss the possibility of reaching out to as many people. It doesn't matter whether you tell them about us or that all is, it's like immaterial. What matters is you actually teach them so that they can get benefited. You know, another aspect about this work that I have realized, it is not about what work we do. It's not about it's my job to show up, and actually I've taken this as my purpose, right? You know, it's a complicated work to do, and people haven't heard about it, and they're like, okay, you can do so much more. There are other business possibilities, but I've chosen to stick to this work because this is beyond business. It's beyond all these so-called commercial choices. What matters about this whole thing is the possibility of people connecting to themselves that is simply available here by using the technique like handwriting, something that is so simple, so ordinary, but so powerful. So please make sure that you do that. You continue your journey. What you should be doing after 21 days, you have a few options. First is you can continue your 21 days one more time, which means from tomorrow. So if you're halfway through the process, if you're started on say day 15, so you're still in the process. So from tomorrow you'll receive all your emails till you finish your 21 days. That's the sequence. Now that sequence you will receive for sure. But after that, if you are on 21st day, if you've finished all 21 days, then what you can do is you start from day 1 and complete one more cycle of 21 days. If you do that, you get to explore all these questions one more time. Second way you can keep in touch with this process is every Friday on the Absolutely Right podcast, we come up with a journaling based question. So like our session, I talk about a topic, I trigger you in a certain way, I give you a question and you can do your own journaling. Now yesterday we were talking about what all we can do to make sure that we connect, and I love doing this. I know how much, I cannot tell you how much I enjoy connecting with these topics and giving you all the information. So it's fascinating. So in that case we thought, what if we create a group coaching program that continues after you do the after you complete your 21 days. So next month onwards we will be announcing, I don't have much details, it will be like a weekly process. So the way you attend a physical gym and you work on your physical capacity, it will be a similar journey where you work on your mental capacity, and we're going to build that to make sure that you thrive and you take your journey to the next level. So please send your feedback, whatever story, whatever experiences you have had, we would love to know about it. It is inspiring to see how different people around the world get benefited by the stroke practice, the Calmsutra practice. So make sure that you send the feedback on your experiences. So the email ID to do that is WRIT at aditisurana.com, or you can send a DM message on our Instagram handle. Thank you so much again for being part of this journey. I cannot be grateful enough. Anybody who wants to be part of it, who wants to learn the stroke, the initiative will be on for a few more days. So the link is at aditisurana.com/lockdown21. So they can still be part of it and take the journey of 21 days from tomorrow onwards. I hope to see you soon, and obviously we'll keep in touch through the platform, and we'll have so much to talk about. We'll keep doing lives, get other experts to talk about anxiety. So this conversation and this journey going to go on. I'll see you soon, and all the best. Happy writing. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Thank you. Bye-bye.